Is the free tacos I heard someone?
We're going to come back to order now for our regularly scheduled meeting, and we'll begin again with a roll call from our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The records shall reflect that all members are present.
Thank you very much, and our city attorney will bring us out of closed session.
With regard to CS1, the City Council this evening authorized a limited waiver of the closed session confidentiality privilege with regard to 536 Madrigal Drive. And in that, it has authorized me to say the subject of an appraisal was not previously discussed by the council in closed session. An appraisal has been ordered. The council has agreed to review the appraisal before closing on the property.
Thank you very much, and Councilmember Green is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Yes, I am. If you could please stand, put your hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our city clerk will read a procedural statement.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I would like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To speak on an item on the agenda this evening, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item that you'd like to speak on and give it to our clerk or secretary staff here on the dais. Speaker slips are available just outside the chamber doors. For members of the public that are participating via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature to indicate that you would like to speak by clicking raise hand on your screen or pressing *9 on your phone. We will announce when to raise your hand to indicate that you would like to make a comment on the specific item being discussed. Speakers will have 3 minutes each to address the council this evening. Now we'll go to our city manager, John Conley, for the approval of our agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to this evening's agenda.
Thank you very much. That'll bring us to our oral communications. Any member of the public may address the city council on an agency-related matter that is not on the agenda by requesting to speak during this section of the agenda. If you're participating via Zoom, use the raise your hand feature or press *9 now if you would like to speak. The number of speakers that will be heard during this segment is limited to 10. Any remaining speakers will be heard under the second oral communications item. So if you would, press *9 now or use the raise your hand feature. We'll begin with our in-person public oral comments, beginning with Alejandro Sanchez, followed by Joe Hood.
Afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, staff. My name is Alejandro Sanchez. I'm a community activist from Vista for many, many years. Tonight, I want to present you Mrs. Domitila Morales. Mrs. Domitila Morales is 94 years old, living in this property for over 30 years. Now we have these bastard rich people who came and trying to beat her, trying to kick it out of the property because they the new owners, and they offered her only $1,000. We have the cops today, went to her door, drop out this notice to vacate today. The same sheriff's officers that went to her house 2 times prior to this date and intimidated her, harassing her, and more. What I'm asking you tonight is, even though we talked to city officials, we have Mrs. Corina Contreras, who represents Region 9 or District 1, who probably knows about the case, hasn't even shared this story with you. I am very sad to see these council members that have become a rubber stamp, and that's all you have become. The only guy that I respect is John Conley for many years, but you guys don't even know what's going on in your community. What is worse, don't even advocate for our elderly people, such as Mrs. Domitila Morales. We cannot let rich people to come and tell our elderly people that they have to go because you cannot afford the money. No, it's not about money. It's just about greedy, you know? Even though these rich people was sanctioned by the Environmental Health Department, by the city officials, it's still that they were able to, the charity department were able to go to her house today without name. You got a copy of it, every single one of you. Look at the very top, occupant. Who is the occupant? You don't do that. You're a cop. You're a sheriff. You're supposed to know your job and not intimidating people. We have to advocate again our elderly people. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to ask Ms. Imelda Huerta to visit with Ms. Morales to see if there's anything that we can do to be of assistance. She's in the back of the chamber. Our next public speaker is Joe Hood.
Thank you for helping. Good evening. I would like to open a discussion of updating Vista's city vision as part of the upcoming general plan update. Please consider declaring Vista a generous city. Generous cities are human settlements that nestle within the living world, rather than pushing nature to the fringes as we do now. As a first step in the process, start by visiting and observing our local native ecosystem. Record today's reality: tree canopy, parks, solar rooftops, roads, parking, building designs, gardens, stormwater capture, waste handling, air, environmental justice and equity provisions, etc. Visit the San Diego Zoo and observe how you feel as you walk under the tree canopy. How can we achieve a satisfying sense of well-being in Vista while reducing environmental harms? How can we make Vista the destination place for people to visit and live in North County? Let's create buildings and landscapes that are as generous as the wildlands and nature. Nature wastes nothing. Even dead plants and animals are recycled by microbes. Rooftops that grow food, gather the sun's energy and welcome wildlife. Pavements that absorb stormwater, then slowly release it into aquifers. Buildings that sequester carbon dioxide, cleanse the air, treat their own wastewater, and turn sewage back into rich soil nutrients. All connected in an infrastructure that is woven through with wildlife corridors and urban agriculture, all in a living park setting. We can create this. Such design possibilities arise out of regenerative questions. What other benefits can you imagine layering on to this vision so we can give some away? Let's make Vista distributive, regenerative, and yes, generous. Thank you.
Mr. Hood, our next item is our consent agenda, and you've asked to speak on item C7. Would you like to take your 3 minutes on our solar project?
Of course. Well, thank you again. Many kudos for this project. It's surely a move in the right direction. I would ask you to please consider adding batteries and standalone operational capability. That is, turn this into a fully operational microgrid. And set up the Civic Center as a resilient center in case of emergency. Who here anticipated the storm of the last few days? And put microgrids on all appropriate city buildings, including the library across the parking lot. Also, please partner with the school district to set up all school buildings as resilient centers for the community. Consider inviting Santa Barbara School District to a Zoom presentation regarding what they've done with resilient centers. Maybe someone even should visit Santa Barbara to get firsthand look. Actually, put solar on all city-owned parking lots and encourage all businesses to follow suit. And partner with the Clean Energy Alliance to set set up a feed-in tariff to encourage widespread solar installations? Why should we pay the highest in-country electricity rates charged by SDG&E, which continues to burn massive amounts of fossil fuels, making our climate crisis worse? This project is a wonderful start. Our climate crisis demands that we urgently take all reasonable next steps starting yesterday. Climate change is code red for humanity. Please jump in both feet. Thanks.
Thank you. And we are on our consent agenda at this time. Are there any other items that the council would like to withdraw from the consent agenda? Councilman Green.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to pull item number C5, please.
Okay. Any other items to be pulled?
I would make a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar as presented.
Councilmember Melendez.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt items with the exception of C5 and C7. Please cast your votes. That item passes unanimously. Let's jump ahead to item C7 since Mr. Hood just spoke on it, and we'll come back to item C5 if that's okay. I just like to point out that I had the opportunity recently to, is that all right with everyone? Oh, he pulled it, okay. Is that okay? I had the opportunity recently at a request of a member of the community to do an extensive review of the SANDAG audit on carbon emissions and energy efficiency from for the city of Vista. And staff has worked on 2 successive installations of that audit over the last, I think, about 9 years. And we brought in an expert on energy efficiency and carbon reduction. And after reviewing, we could not find any additional steps that were not already underway in all of our properties that we had not yet begun to enact or that would provide additional efficiencies. So I do want to commend our staff for doing an excellent job of reviewing the opportunities to create energy efficiency, and this solar project is one of them. So with that, Deputy Mayor Contreras.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this project. This is something, you know, we had probably one of the best assembly members, Tasha Berner, who really looked at some of the issues we had in Vista and brought forward a lot of funding to address these different issues. And this is, you know, something that I had spoken to her about. Definitely a big priority to get as much solar as we can. And, you know, we can always do better. There's a lot that needs to be done to decarbonize our buildings, make them safer, healthier, and more resilient for the future. So I look forward and continuing to have discussions about how to make our facilities better, both existing and future facilities.
I would make a motion to adopt item C7. Is there a second? Councilmember O'Donnell?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That item is adopted unanimously, and that'll bring us back to item C5, the Bringle Terrace Park Softball Field Lighting Replacement Project. Councilmember Green, you asked to discuss this item.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. So I have spent a good amount of my adult life playing softball on those softball fields. Not well, by the way, but I attempted to play softball there. And I know that we're doing a lot of different renovations on there. And I know that the gentlemen that live in Vista and obviously play on those softball fields would be really happy to hear about it. So knowing that we're getting new lights, I hear, that aren't going to take like an hour to warm up or whatever after they shut off, pretty awesome. But I just wanted to kind of have a little presentation of exactly what you're doing, when you anticipate it'll be done, and you know, kind of I know you're working on our parks master plan stuff too. So take it away, team. Let's go.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mike Checo, Community Services Director, and with me is our Management Analyst, Jessica Bench. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jessica for a brief presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
The softball field lighting system at Bringle Terrace Park is in need of replacement due to age and normal wear and tear of the current system, which was originally installed in 1983. The work for the project consists of procurement and installation of materials and equipment for a fully functional and operational light structure system in both of the two softball fields at Bringle Terrace Park. The total cost of the proposed construction contract with Musco Sports Lighting is $938,848, and funds are available in the capital improvement project number 8348 to fund the project. Construction is expected to begin in December of 2023 and is anticipated to be completed by March 3rd for the softball season. A complete scope of work and plans are also included in Exhibit A of the contract. That's all I have to present. Thank you. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think it was good to make sure the public knew that these were installed in 1983, which was 40 years ago. And knowing that we're getting some new technology and some new lights, hopefully we anticipate they'll last for another 40 years. And what a bargain. So I thank you so much for paying attention to the amenities that we have here in Vista. As you know, we have competing cities who try to attract different softball teams and leagues here, which are really good for our city and our community. So I definitely appreciate you guys concentrating on making sure that ours are just as good or better than our surrounding cities. So thank you so much for prioritizing this and bringing this forward to council.
Our pleasure.
All right. With that, I would move to approve item number C5 as presented.
Deputy Mayor Contreras?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. That item is approved unanimously. That will bring us to the first of two scheduled public hearings. And I think we're going to go to our Assistant City Manager, Imelda Huerta, for the first of the two. The first hearing is with relation to nuisance abatement for 1248 South Santa Fe and the adjacent vacant parcel. Public hearing is now open.
Mayor, if it's all right, I'd like to jump in here. With respect to this property, we have been working diligently with the property owner who's been cooperating. They cleaned the site last week. We were prepared to remove this item from the agenda. However, this morning we identified some additional trash on the property that's been placed there or disposed of there over the last day. It's our recommendation at this point that we continue the public hearing to the next meeting on September 12th to give the property owner an opportunity to clean the mess up that's on the site. If the council's inclined to do so, it would require a vote to continue the matter until September 12th, and that's our recommendation.
I'd like to add to that I was at the property several times, including this morning, and actually had a conversation that precipitated these public hearings. It's my desire to see us move expeditiously after informing a property owner of their violation of our ordinances and issuing several fines to proceed with remediating the issue and reducing and eliminating blight, keeping our city goal promise, our council promise to the public to make for a safer and cleaner city. And so I would agree, and I want to express public appreciation to the property owner for complying with our request expeditiously. And so I would support City Manager's request to continue, and I would make a motion that we do continue the hearing on this item until September 12th. Councilmember Green?
I would second that motion.
Very good. Any other discussion on this? Very good. This is right down from Moe's Pizza where we were all cutting the ribbon. So we've got some great young business owners there trying to make a living. Very proud of them. With that, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. That'll bring us to the second of our two public hearings. This is a nuisance abatement hearing for the property at Crestview Road, Assessor's Parcel Number 179-151-4600. The public hearing is now open. Assistant to the City Manager, Imelda Huerta, will provide the staff report.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight I will be presenting a nuisance abatement hearing item regarding a vacant property on Crestview Road. And with me tonight is Code Enforcement Manager Clarence Fritch as well to assist with any questions. The property that is the subject of this nuisance abatement hearing is a vacant lot next to 756 Crestview Road. The APN is 1614600 and is approximately 0.2 acres and is located in the R1 zone. Here are a few photos of the site taken since November to recently. Just please note that a few vehicles have been removed as of today. However, there are a few remaining on the lot. All violations and citations are related to Vista Municipal Code 8.36040B12 regarding the unpermitted use to store any inoperable vehicles on the property. Additionally, VMC or Vista Municipal Code 8.36040B3, that requires removal of all trash, litter, and debris observed accumulating on the parcel and in front of the property, as well as Vista Development Code 18.28.10, as it is unpermitted to use the parcel for storage-related purposes in a residential zone. This property was originally inspected in November 14th, 2022. A notice of violation was then issued in December 14th, 2022. There have been a total of 4 administrative citations issued between the periods of January through the end of March, totaling $5,625 to date. We work closely with the city's attorney's office on this abatement process, which includes posting the site regarding the hearing on July 24th and August 15th, conducting the hearing and proposing adoption of a resolution setting forth findings, and ordering the property owner or others having charge or control of the property to abate the nuisance within 30 days of the adoption. If they do fail to comply, the city manager shall be authorized to abate the public nuisance and is required to report back to the city council the cost of the abatement. The city council may then recover the city's cost of abating the nuisance by assessing the property owner with a special assessment against the property. The assessment will then be placed on the property tax roll for collection. The city's code enforcement officers have viewed this vacant lot on multiple occasions and have had multiple discussions with the owner regarding the current site condition. Staff recommends that we close a public hearing regarding the property's condition and adopt a resolution declaring that the condition of the vacant property at Crestview Road, APN 179-161-46-00, constitutes a public nuisance and authorizing the city manager to abate the public nuisance. That concludes our report. Thank you for your time. We are happy to answer any questions.
Could you summarize any discussion or communications that you've had from the property owner?
Sure, I'll defer to our code enforcement manager, Clarence Rich. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Yes, a correspondence with him that he is in the process of removing items from the property and just requesting more time. That's basically our correspondence with him.
There have been mailings and emails, also contacts with the property owner since the beginning of this process, and includes mailings at least once a month, emails, and conversations with him at the site.
So I see the initial notice of violation goes back to November of last year.
That's correct.
What was the earliest time at which the owner indicated to the city that they were actively working to resolve the violation of code?
The property owner came in last Friday and made comments that he is in the process of removing the vehicles, just needed more time last Friday at City Hall.
I do want to add that at the beginning of this process, the notice was originally sent to the property owner at 756 Crestview Road, which is a different owner. At that time, staff realized that there were different property owners at the different sites in that area.
So the notice of this public hearing did generate compliance, or at least a communication and an expression of willingness to comply with the city?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, and that communication again came on what date?
It came. The communication came last Friday.
Okay. I want to hear our other council members' questions. I would, and previous to this, they had not been compliant?
That's correct. No compliance.
And no communication?
From my understanding, there was communication at the beginning, but somehow there was no more further than that.
Yes, this case began with our previous senior code enforcement officer, who once he left, there was a transition in staffing that kind of ended communications for a couple months, and then new staff picked it up.
And I assume we have members of the public that have complained about the condition of the property?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Green?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question I have for you on your vicinity map here, and then even on page 45 of the report, you actually have an overhead view of the parcel in question. And when I look at the overhead view of the parcel in question, it doesn't look like there's like a whole bunch of stuff on that parcel. And then when I look, obviously at your pictures, I just see like a fence. I'm just a little confused as far as like exactly what it is and what type of nuisance it is. Because if we have to abate it, that's a question is, if I'm forced to abate it, are you saying you're going to come tow this guy's personal property off of his property? You're going to take the trailers? You're going to take the cars? Like, what's the deal?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, the aerial is a bit outdated, but
Okay.
on the property, there is a enclosure, a
Okay.
fencing enclosure.
So the fence with the
vehicles.
tarp around it is
Yes.
currently fencing off the property?
It's fencing off the vehicles.
Okay, and then all
but-
these vehicles that you have pictured in the photos are on the other side of the tarped off fence is what you're saying?
The, I'm sorry. which
In our,
vehicles?
so you got the property photographs and the citations page in your slideshow right here?
Yes.
And that's kind of what I'm wondering is,
yes.
are all those cars and trailers, those are all on the other side of the
Inside,
fence?
yes, but some of those, as of today, have been
Have
removed.
been moved?
Yes, there's about a handful left, is my
I
understanding.
believe there's 5 vehicles left on the property from what I can see.
Okay, and then the next question that I have for you is, it looked like we were finding them pretty steadily up until March 27th, which
Yes.
you totaled $5,600. I'm now, almost 5 months after this, and I'm assuming, like, were there no additional fees, or did we reach our max on fines? And it's like, because 5 months after citing somebody seems like a really long time to get to us, and a really long time for the community to have to be looking at this.
Right, and there was, part of that is due to the transition in staffing when our
Okay,
senior
in code.
enforcement officer left.
Okay.
And since then, we've had 2 more officers in transition, so.
I got you.
Yeah, there's been a delay in that.
And has the citation amounts already been paid of the $5,600, or is that all
No.
outstanding?
Outstanding.
Okay, so our plan is basically to make sure that he clears the property. In the event it's not clear, we're going to abate it. Then we're going to lien the property, I would assume, for not only the $5,600 admin citation fees, but additionally any fees that we incur for abating the property.
That is my understanding. I'll defer to the city attorney, but yes.
Okay, and once we approve this as a governing body, the rules of law start going immediately? Is that how it works?
They have 30 days to
They have
abate.
30 days to abate. Okay, so basically it's like, hey, within 30 days, we're coming.
Yes, and if they do not, then we'll return with the cost to council.
But you just start after 30 days just doing your work. You come to us after you've already abated it.
So they have 30 days as of the adoption of the resolution to abate. And if they do not abate, then we come back and present to you the cost in an attempt to recover the cost via a tax assessment.
We got to prove that cost. Okay, all right. Thank you for answering all my questions. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the other council members.
Councilmember Green, that's an excellent point about our ability to collect our $5,600 in fines. Moving forward with this would give us that ability and would put the property owner on a finite time clock that would begin. They would still have 30 days to rectify the problem on their own, which would bring us, what would that 30 days from today?
Yes.
So that'd be September. So that's going on like 10 months from the original notification. So that it does seem ample. Councilmember O'Donnell?
First, I will say thank you to Code Enforcement. I know you're very shorthanded right now, so I appreciate the work that you're doing. I did have a question. So I know prior to your taking this position, when was the last communication before that? Do we know? From the individual whose property this is?
7/31, there was a meeting with the owner.
And then they waited until,
So 7/31 they met, and then letters started being sent out again in, for the hearing, and then also early August, and then Mr. Clarence Rich met with the owner again last Friday.
how much time have they requested?
He didn't really say, he just said he needed more time to relocate the vehicles.
Okay. Have they paid any of the fines yet?
No.
I'm assuming not, based on this information that you have in here, okay. Mr. Green, you asked some great questions. I don't have a ton on here, but, so the last communication was on Friday, asking for more time, and basically they have 30 days under the law, once this goes through, to move those dates. Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Contreras.
Yeah, just a question. Is there a business located on this property?
No, it's a residential property. Its zone is residential.
Okay. Do we think that there's some kind of a business happening on this property?
No,
It's a lot of
basically,
cars.
the vehicle just being stored on the property.
Okay. Okay.
We will
That's it.
continue to monitor for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to have that many vehicles, so.
Councilmember Green.
I move that we close the public hearing and accept staff's recommendation for moving forward.
I would second that motion, and I just want to close with thanking staff and our code enforcement department and our city manager's office and our city attorney's office. And I think that we'll all agree when I say that as a city, we never want to be in a position to ever have to impose a fine on our citizens. We do not want to be in a position to have to involuntarily abate these problems. But this is clearly by virtue of the fact that they reached out when we began this public nuisance hearing, is evidence of the fact that this process of a public hearing to bring attention to this and give authority to the city manager to bring back a solution to rectify it certainly is important to encourage folks. And I think I speak on behalf of all of our residents when we say the safer and the cleaner our city is, the happier everybody is. So with that, we have a motion and a second. And thank you again to everybody for their good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please cast your votes. That item is approved unanimously. And that will bring us to item D1, which is an item that I asked to be placed on the agenda. And I would ask at this time if there are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item, that they may indicate so by using the raise their hand feature on Zoom or pressing *9 on their touchtone phone, or submitting a request to speak card. Speakers will be called on after the presentation. And since I asked for this item to be on the agenda, I want to call your attention to the paper-clipped group of materials that I've offered. The first is a story that was written by CBS San Francisco, which details the fact that the state of California is the only state in the nation that presently collects income tax on military pensions. And it also points out that since 2020, more than 500,000 U.S. veterans have vacated the state of California. So, and I've also provided some information about California Assembly Bill 46. And I want to, at this time, and I included in this information is a summary from the State Legislative Office of Analysis, as well as a list of those members of the legislature who have co-sponsored the bill. It's a very bipartisan piece of legislation. And with that, I'd like to read a very simple resolution that I'm asking for your support for. Our findings are as follows, and we hereby declare AB 46, according to the State Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Anthony Portantino, Chair, would, for the taxable years 2024 through 2033, exclude from income for state tax purposes, 1, retirement pay received by a taxpayer from the federal government for services in the uniformed services, and 2, annuity payments received by a qualified taxpayer pursuant to a DoD survivor benefit plan. B, California has long been the only state to fully tax military pensions. C, according to U.S. Census data, more than 500,000 U.S. military veterans have vacated California since 2020. D, states like Nevada and Florida that do not fully tax military pensions have seen an increase in veterans. Item E, Assemblymember James Ramos, Democrat from San Bernardino, is sponsoring AB 46. F, veterans would be less inclined to leave California if the cost of living was more affordable for them. Our action item, A, the City of Vista strongly supports the passage of AB 46 to encourage retention of U.S. veterans in the state of California and the City of Vista. B, the City of Vista endeavors to reduce the cost of living for all residents, and especially those veterans who have served our nation in uniform. C, the City of Vista finds that the retention of military retirees and their families is essential and beneficial to the economy of the City of Vista, our metropolitan region, and the state of California. Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing this forward, Mayor. I think it's definitely something that I would support. I support AB 46. And it does seek to address some of the displacement challenges that our community is facing, especially within our veteran community. And in conversations with veterans, I believe that there is already a great enough burden that they take on in terms of recovering from their service. They tend to have higher medical costs and recovery costs that aren't even necessarily covered by their insurance. And so I think it's really important to reduce the cost burden as much as we can to veterans and their families. And I support this, and I'll make a motion to accept this resolution and show our support for AB 46.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Donnell.
I will also support this. I am the proud son of a very proud United States Marine. I have a lot of friends that have been in the military. We are surrounded by members of the military, having Camp Pendleton and a bunch of naval bases, Air Force bases all around us. But these individuals, not only do they sacrifice for our country, they sacrifice a large portion of their lives to service our nation, and I will fully support this and think that it's the right thing to do.
Thank you very much for your support. I very much appreciate that. Of course, Vista is a Marine town, a military town, a Navy town, and we honor all those who have served in all the branches of our armed services with this item. Seeing no other, Councilmember O'Donnell, you seconded the item?
I will second this.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other discussion, we have a motion, a second, and seeing no discussion on the motion, please cast your votes on the motion to adopt the resolution as presented. And that item is approved unanimously. Thank you for your support of that. Item D2 is tobacco product waste reduction. And again, if any member of the public wishes to speak on this item, they may indicate so by using the raise your hand feature or pressing *9 on their touchtone phone or submitting a request to speak card. And we do have some speakers that would like to be heard on this issue. Speakers will be called upon after the presentation. Councilmember Melendez asked for this item to be placed on the agenda, so we'll ask her to introduce it.
Thank you, and thank you to all the speakers who are ready to give your thoughts about this, and I'm looking forward to a very friendly council discussion about this topic. As a council, I think that we've been able to do a lot of positive work in the past few months regarding tobacco and tobacco products in our community. And this just goes to further the efforts that we've already been working on. So I wanted to bring forward for discussion efforts that we can take to reduce tobacco waste in our city of Vista. And we'll go to the first slide. So the problem that I see in our community is everywhere, but I'll share a little bit about what happens in my district that I represent in District 3. At a recent community cleanup in District 3, volunteers discovered an alarming amount of cigarette butts littered on the ground across from the Vista Transit Center. There was tobacco waste around Olive Avenue. This is an area that is my neighborhood. It's near where I live. And there are just prominent culture of tobacco use and poor waste practices in that area. So we'll go to the next slide. This brings me to have many environmental concerns. Cigarettes and other tobacco waste is toxic to the environment due to plastics and chemicals in the cigarette butts. Tobacco litter in our community pollutes the ground, and it can be washed into our waterways. I was really grateful to receive a very helpful and encouraging email from Mr. Peter Kuczynski, who is one of our representatives on our water authority. And when people talk about safe, clean water, we have to recognize that there are pollutants that can make their ways into our water and into our oceans that we like to enjoy. So it's really important for us to try to prevent that. Next slide. For Vista, there are several areas of concern for tobacco waste. There are prominent public areas that have regular issues with tobacco use, waste and improper disposal, and negative behavior that results in toxic litter. Ultimately, the process to get to pollution is somebody has to smoke a cigarette or use a tobacco product. They have to improperly dispose of that product on the ground, and then it ends up littering our community. And some of the areas that I've noticed that are prominent public areas that have these types of issues would include downtown and historic Vista, around restaurants and breweries and bars, near tobacco retailers, at transit centers and transit stops, around employment areas, and also in parks and other spaces that don't allow smoking. So I think essentially everywhere there are issues with litter, and in particular cigarette butts. For my first example regarding the Vista Transit Center, I'm walking that area on Olive very frequently, and there is a culture of people, coming in from the transit center, getting their stop at the Vista Transit Center, taking a stroll across the street to that sidewalk across from the transit center, and taking a smoke break. And it's the riders, it's people walking through the area, it's the employees, right, and people who are driving the buses and who are helping our public transportation move along. People generally see that area as a space where they can have a smoke break, and without any mitigation, the result has been gutters that are full of cigarette waste. And this is just a very prominent area that I see, but I'm sure in everyone's neighborhood and different areas around the city, we might be able to identify this is a prominent area where we're seeing a lot of tobacco waste. Next slide. So I want us to take action to prevent pollution, and I've identified some action words that we can pursue: to designate, to abate, to enforce, and to educate. Some of these suggestions came in from community members, and some of these are practices that I've seen in other cities. And I'm not making any particular recommendations right now. I'm just attempting to facilitate a discussion so that as a council and as a community, we can establish an action plan on how we're going to prevent pollution. One of the ways that we can do that is to establish waste receptacles in those prominent public areas and enforce litter laws. If someone is permitted to smoke in an area, we know that it's an area that people are going to smoke in, and we don't provide receptacles, then essentially we're in a position where the litter is on the ground and there's no tool or facet of mitigation for that. When we have established waste receptacles, it does make it easier for us to enforce litter laws because there's clearly a place for the cigarette butts to go. And if someone does violate litter laws blatantly and not throw their litter away in the receptacle, I think it also goes hand in hand with enforcement and making sure that people are held accountable to dispose of their waste properly. We can also require businesses to mitigate and clean cigarette litter. So we might not put a waste receptacle on a private property where there is a business, but that still affects our public waterways and our public-facing environment and public grounds and ecosystems. So we want to make sure that business owners and property owners are being responsible if there is a culture of cigarette smoking and improper disposal in certain businesses, then making sure that we have some sort of requirement to mitigate that litter. I would also like to discuss establishing fees on cigarettes to cover the cost of cleaning public streets. We do have street sweeping, and that does address some of the litter that ends up in the gutters. And it would be meaningful for us to evaluate how much of this litter is cigarettes? And is there a way that we can quantify that so that we can establish a fee on cigarette purchases, so that with every cigarette purchase in the city of Vista, we know that we're going to be able to cover the cost of cleaning up after all these cigarettes. Something else we can discuss is restricting areas where tobacco use is permitted. This is something that the city of Encinitas has done. They've restricted tobacco use in public space. And although they have done that, I've personally seen people still smoke cigarettes and use tobacco products in Encinitas in public spaces. So to me, we don't want to just choose one solution. We want to have multiple solutions, because there may be people who continue to smoke cigarettes, and I want to reduce the pollution to the ground as much as possible. Finally, it's going to be very important for us to educate the community about tobacco use and proper disposal. The best case scenario is that people in our community stop smoking cigarettes. And that is ultimately going to be the solution to reducing tobacco waste pollution. And those would be some of the action items that we can discuss today. And next, I think that's just a thank you for your time. And I know we have some comments and ready for public discussion. I did want to make a quick note about just some creative options. This was submitted as an add to packet. It's included in the packet today. There are different ways that we can have waste receptacles, right? This is an illustration. It's not on the slide right now, but this is an illustration of a cigarette voting by butt, right? So you can submit your cigarette butt into different slots, and instead of it just going into a canister, you can kind of see the cigarettes filling up. That's, a different way to display the cigarette waste, and it, gets people to be more inclined maybe to actually, there it is, to actually put their cigarette in the receptacle, right? Because you get to vote on topics like who would win in a fight, a kangaroo versus an emu. Right? There's different ways you might want to participate and put your butt in the right location. So I think that there's lots of different ways that we can establish waste receptacles in our community and work with local businesses and property owners to reduce tobacco waste in our community. So with that, I would love to hear from our speakers and have a council discussion.
Okay, and our first public speaker is Joe Hood, followed by Erica Carter and Janice Jones. And then we have some speakers on Zoom as well.
Again, thank you for putting the topic on the agenda. I urge you to please join Encinitas, Santa Barbara, Manhattan Beach, Beverly Hills, and more. Adopt a citywide ban on smoking in city parks, trails, restaurants, walkways, places of employment and business, multifamily housing, both inside and outside. In Encinitas, smoking is currently permitted on private property, in residences, inside 20% of the guest rooms in hotels and motels, and inside a car that is being driven. The goal of the rule would be to reduce waste, protect our environment, and limit secondhand smoke exposure to the public. The potential beneficial environmental impact of an ordinance like this is vast. Cigarette butts, including filters, are the #1 waste item found in beach cleanups up and down San Diego County, and tobacco-based waste is one of the main sources of marine plastic pollution worldwide. The U.S. EPA found the effects of secondhand smoke are a health risk to the public and therefore classified secondhand smoke as a, quote, Group A carcinogen, the most dangerous class of toxin. Surely we're concerned about the potential health effects this could have on our community. By implementing these changes, we hope to eliminate as much waste as possible and further contribute to the beautification of our hopefully generous city.
Thank you very much, Erica Carter, followed by Janice Jones, followed by our first Zoom speaker, John Bodorf.
Good evening, City Council, City staff. My name is Erica Carter, and I'm a program supervisor for the Vista Community Clinic Tobacco Program. I'd like to take this opportunity to first thank you for putting this discussion on about tobacco product waste reduction efforts. And as we continue the conversation around tobacco-free spaces, I'd like to provide you a copy of the Public Health Law Center's Smoke and Tobacco-Free Outdoor Areas Model Ordinance. It includes information on policy considerations which address the environmental impact of discarded cigarette butts and e-cigarette cartridges. I've also provided additional resources on tobacco and the environment from the California Department of Public Health and the Truth Initiative. And remember that we're always here should you seek additional information regarding tobacco-free areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice Jones, followed by John Bodorf on Zoom, followed by Naeem M. on Zoom.
Good evening. Thank you, Councilmember Melendez, for bringing this forward, and thank you also for your informative presentation. You haven't left much for me to say, but I'll go ahead and read my comments. I'm a Rise Above Plastics program co-lead with the San Diego chapter of the Surfrider Foundation, and I have participated in Only Losers litter cleanups in Vista since the group's inception. Councilmember Green and I cleaned a whole bunch of cigarette butts out of a planter bed one time. It was astonishing. I'm concerned about tobacco product waste for several reasons. Cigarette butts are the #1 item found during beach and community cleanups, and according to Truth Initiative, cigarette butts are the most prominently littered items on U.S. roadways, retail areas, loading docks, construction sites, and recreational areas. And I would add transit stations based on my personal experience with cleanups in a variety of locations around Vista. The Only Losers litter cleanup team and I also see abundance of them when we clean the 78 westbound on-ramp at Melrose, and we find them in planter beds, on sidewalks, and gutters all around town. In other words, they can be found pretty much everywhere, and this unsightly litter makes its way into the watershed at alarming rates. I hate to think about the amount of cigarette butts that must have been washed into the storm drains on Sunday with the recent rainfall caused by Hillary. One thing people don't often realize is that each cigarette filter is made from 15,000 cellulose acetate microplastic fibers that don't biodegrade. Consequently, butts don't only contribute to the litter problem, they also contribute to the plastic pollution problem, contaminating our waterways, the soil, our food, and even the air we breathe. With that said, I support many of the action items in the presentation, including the installation of butt canisters in hot spots, such as the transit stations that are most impacted by tobacco product waste. In addition, I suggest that the city undertakes a pilot program that would include pre- and post data collection at all locations where canisters are initially installed to ensure that they're successfully reducing cigarette butt litter, and then to make modifications as needed. And that would go along with any of the other items that you might choose to implement. And then to further utilize data, I want to point out that SDSU researchers with the Tobacco Product Waste Reduction Project have been collecting data for cities across the county, including Vista. My understanding is that the data is currently being prepared and will be available very soon. After the reports are completed, project leaders will be scheduling outreach meetings during which the data will be shared and community input would be gathered. A final report will be provided to city staff and council members. With that said, I urge you to continue this conversation and discuss additional mitigation.
Thank you. John Bodorf on Zoom. John, can you hear us? Or can we hear you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm John Bodorf with cleanforkids.org, and I want to thank the council for having this conversation. Definitely in favor of taking any action to reduce smoking, particularly in Vista. Definitely ask a couple of things. One is to follow the lead of the city of Encinitas and institute a public smoking ban. Would also ask the city to look at passing an ordinance to stop all smoking and vaping in multi-unit housing. That's already been done in over 80 cities and counties in California. 1 in 3 non-smokers and 2 in 5 children are exposed to secondhand smoke in multi-unit housing. Secondhand smoke is a carcinogen, so anything we can do to reduce not just the litter, but also just the incredible health impacts of smokers. And smoking impacts everyone, including the smoker, but especially the people who don't want to smoke. They're just happen to be walking by. Would also ask you to look at passing an ordinance to stop the sale of smoking products like Beverly Hills and Manhattan Beach. An alternative has been done in Brookline, Massachusetts, and other places around the world. It's called tobacco-free generation, where you basically pass an ordinance that anyone born after January 1st, 2000 can't buy any tobacco or vaping product. So basically over time, basically the tobacco products just go away and people can't buy them anymore. Would also ask that you look at, banning all flavored tobacco products. Flavors are used by the industry to get kids to smoke and to get them hooked. Nicotine is highly addictive, particularly for youth, and makes it more likely for them to be addicted, but almost impossible for them to break it. So I definitely am in full favor of getting the butts off the street, and also please take action to just stop smoking in general for the environment and for kids' health. Thank you.
Thank you. Naeem Him, are you there? Naeem?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. We can hear you.
All right. Hi, my name is Naeem with North County NAACP. They're a youth council and cleanearthforkids.org. Please take action to not just stop the smoking debris, but also pass an ordinance to stop all smoking and vaping in multi-unit housing, which has already been done in almost 80 cities and counties in California. We must have clean air to breathe. This is a fundamental right. We must have clean air so that children's brains can fully develop and can learn. We must have clean air to allow our youth to be able to focus on their schoolwork, advance, succeed, and become engaged and productive members of our society. Up to 65% of the air in a multi-unit home can come from another unit in the building. 2 out of every 5 children is exposed to secondhand smoke, increasing their risks of asthma and other lung conditions. There is also third-hand smoke, which is linked to things like liver disease, type 2 diabetes, and can harm brain development. I also ask you to pass an ordinance to stop all sales of flavored smoking products, including tobacco, cannabis, cigars, e-cigarettes, and vapes. Flavors are used by the industry to hook youth and create lifelong customers. Please follow the example of the cities of San Diego, Encinitas, and Santa Ana, along with Sacramento and Monterey counties, to protect kids and do not allow flavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne Hume.
Hi.
Hi there, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much to Councilmember Melendez. This is so very important. We need to get this toxic tobacco waste off of our streets and out of our water. As you know, nicotine and toxic chemicals, heavy metals leach from the butts, and they can be picked up by birds and wildlife and children. And we don't want this. We need to do everything we can to protect our kids and our water, right? Because ultimately, it is the city of Vista and the taxpayers that have to pay for the cleanup of the water, but it is the children and the families who have to deal with the consequences of not just contaminated water, but also contaminated air. So absolutely, we support the comments of Joe Hood and Janice Jones, and thank the Vista Community Clinic and the Surfrider Foundation for all of the years of really important work to bringing to light the problems of tobacco waste and tobacco. Also, the plastic containers that are the plastic pieces, right, that are around the cigarette cases and or cartons. There you go, cartons, and also cigar, the packaging, the plastics, and marijuana as well. So the plastics getting into our water, and more we're learning about the harms of plastic, and you're seeing the effects as well. So back to the support for the important comments of Naeem Miller and John Bottorff of Clean Earth for Kids. So very important that we just put a stop to this. So tobacco receptacles are so fantastic, but as Mark O'Connor from Surfrider will tell you, who's managed this for a long time, it's really important and so valuable to get these off. But how can we stop the flow and the source and not be inundated with toxic chemicals from smoking products and plastics all over? How can we reduce the source? So we need to think very much about that. Because of course, second and third hand smoking products, tobacco and marijuana, right? Both deadly. Smoke not only harms our hearts and our lungs, but it increases the rates of cancer, diseases, lung infections, bronchitis, asthma attacks, going on and on. And we know that tobacco smoke, there are so many studies, and you can go to our website, cleanearthforkids.org, under our Clean Air page on Team 3, and you will see studies, and it's just really heartbreaking. So pre-birth,
Thank you very much. And we'll go now to Councilmember Dan O'Donnell.
Thank you. Just before I begin my statements, I just want to, for the record, say an emu would win in a fight between an emu and a kangaroo. They are very aggressive animals. So I want to thank all the speakers. I especially want to thank Councilmember Melendez for bringing this forward. As Janice so accurately pointed out, this is not only the #1 pollutant in the city or the county or the state, in the world. It is the #1 pollutant. 4.5 trillion cigarette butts get polluted every single year, or littered every single year. They get into our beaches, but they also get into our streams, our rivers, our ponds, our lakes. They put toxins and chemicals into our groundwater. They contaminate ecosystems and destroy wildlife. So anything we can do to eliminate that, I mean, to the point that you had brought up about rain, that was the first thought I had when I saw this on our agenda, is not just cigarette butts, but just pollution in general, how much has been pushed downstream into our oceans and all over our communities with the recent storm that we had. So I would be interested to having this discussion. I think that these receptacles would be a fantastic, fun idea. At the same time, I also want to find ways to reduce the amount of individual smoking in general. But I am open to having a discussion about imposing some type of fee on cigarettes for cleaning up our streets, since it is such a huge pollutant. And making sure that receptacles are available. I know that for a long time we have not had them available here in the city because people thought they didn't look good. And they may not look good, but it is definitely something that's needed for our businesses and our community as well. So I'm supportive of this. I'm open to having a larger discussion. I look forward to seeing what the council has to say and where we go with it. But anything we can do to reduce the plastic pollution in our oceans and our ecosystems and just keep it out of our community, I'm all for. So.
Deputy Mayor Contreras.
Thank you, Councilmember Melendez, for bringing this forward. We've, as a council, been able to discuss tobacco and mitigating some of its negative impacts here in the city of Vista, and this is just going to further that. I agree that something needs to be done. I love the different voting systems that people can do when disposing their cigarette butts. I do have a question regarding multifamily housing. Is there a difference between what we can regulate and what we can? Would it be the same for new buildings as it would for existing buildings?
No, it would be different for the two. For new buildings, we could the council could put a condition that it would be smoke-free, but the existing ones that are currently there, we would have to treat them as private residences and allow smoking because there was no stipulation or condition put on them when they were permitted and built.
So there's absolutely nothing we can do to mitigate smoking in multifamily that's already been built?
That's my understanding. I'll take another closer look at it, but yes, definitely for new builds, that would be the council's prerogative. For current ones, it would be, I won't say impossible, but very tough.
Okay. Well, I would appreciate you taking a look at the existing multifamily, but certainly if we could do something in the future for new multifamily developments to be smoke-free, that's something that I would want to do. I think at this point, we're just providing staff with direction, right? So I definitely would want to see that come back to us, how we could go about just saying no smoking in new multifamily housing. Do we have the ability to establish a fee on cigarette purchases?
Yes. Well, from following the example of San Francisco does have a cleanup fee on per pack cigarettes, so we would look at them as an example.
Okay, I would want to look at that example and see if there's any additional examples that we can look at. Certainly, picking up cigarette butts is actually really difficult. I don't know if you have to vacuum them up, or what, but it's with the little pickers, you end up building like this huge muscle just from having to clip it so many times. But okay, and we do have an ordinance that we adopted, right? This is the 25 feet from the door, and we closed up some other additional areas where smoking can't happen, but we did allow. There was a bit of a loophole in that we allowed, I want to say, bars to be not included in that.
Yes. Back in May of 2022, you passed an ordinance banning, regulating smoking at dining establishments, and bars were somewhat excluded.
I don't know if we would have to amend that ordinance. I wasn't in favor of having any kind of exemption, so I don't know if that's something that the council at this point wants to revisit. However, I would say if the council still wanted to have any exemptions to smoke-free areas, that those exemption establishments should probably have some kind of way to dispose of cigarette butts. So if we were to say, exempted areas would, need to provide some kind of receptacle for cigarette butts, would that have to be an amendment to the ordinance, or is there another way to go about establishing that? Or is it impossible to establish?
I would suggest as an amendment to the ordinance.
Okay, I think it would be good to bring that ordinance back before council with such an amendment to require cigarette butt receptacles. And would we be able to kind of stipulate what kind of receptacle?
That might be a little tougher. Because it's one, and I'm saying that because it becomes subjective. And so I would think if they provide any type of receptacle and the butts are being put into it, that it would basically meet the definition of, of disposing of it properly. I think we can suggest it, but I don't know if we could.
Can we look into that a little bit more? Because, maybe we want to have a uniform design guideline for receptacles. Is the issue it being a cost to the establishment?
No, it's not the cost. It's just, it's potentially just, one is regulation, and then two is
It's
determining
too flowery?
or if someone just puts a trash can there and says that's the receptacle, I mean, how can we basically say that doesn't comply?
I think it wouldn't comply if it were not a proper way to dispose cigarette butts, meaning that there's the opportunity for those butts to escape and create, be pollution, in which case maybe we have to have a fine.
Okay, yeah, I think we can, more think about it, I think it's probably reasonable to put some type of, specify a receptacle built to dispose of cigarette butts and maybe leave it at that.
Yeah, I think it would be good to investigate the different angles that we could approach. I would love to say, hey, you need to have one of these voting ones in your establishment. But I want to see what we can do from a legal perspective. But I think it's always good to have something that folks know they can dispose of cigarette butts and only cigarette butts, because what then will happen is that, people like, for the most part, to dispose of their trash in a receptacle. However, if that receptacle doesn't restrict the trash to being a certain diameter, it would encourage folks to maybe stuff it with other types of litter. So that's one of the reasons why I think we need to have a little bit more consideration about what's an appropriate design for a cigarette butt receptacle. Okay, and that's all my questions and direction from me. Thank you.
For a thought with regard to the littering subject, I had asked, and I don't know if we have, I don't think our sheriff's captain is with us tonight, is he? I had asked in years past that we conduct a targeted littering enforcement operation to enforce state law, to issue fines, and to get the television news involved to show that we're serious about enforcing the state law. I think it would have a great impact on the psyche of people who do litter to know that we're actively enforcing the law. The reality is at this time, we are not enforcing that law, even though it's on the books, and we could. I think, and I'm not saying that we want to hire people to stand around and do nothing but enforce littering, but a couple of times a year, we could issue some fines and create a public awareness that we don't tolerate people littering and that there are consequences that have been outlined. One of the things about all these good ideas is we really lack the means to enforce them consistently. We all know that. But we don't lack the means to periodically enforce them. And I think that we should consider periodic enforcement operations that are designed more for publicity than anything, but also designed to punish a select number of people who throw their cigarette butts in the ground. I mean, I don't have a problem with issuing somebody a $125 fine for throwing a cigarette butt, and they're going to get very angry about it. They're going to tell everybody how mad they are about being fined for throwing the cigarette butt in the ground, and that'll be a whole bunch of people that think, maybe I don't want to get caught on Main Street throwing my butts on Main Street. Just a thought. Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I love the idea of enforcement and, letting the public know that if you litter on our streets, you're going to get fined. So if there was any way to do that and not affect the workload or burden of my code enforcement department or my sheriff's department, I definitely see if they could work that in. The voting thing is, I love it. I actually used to smoke cigarettes for years. And as a gross cigarette smoker, I know boo cigarette smokers, when you walk into a grocery store or you walk into someplace, a lot of times there's nowhere to really dispose of your cigarette. And not that it's ever okay to throw it on the ground, but you don't want to put a scolding, fiery cigarette in a trash can because that creates fires and then the fire department comes. So making sure, I think, if we do this, that there's a city approved receptacle that is, if not uniform, maybe give them options, because I understand the voting box might be a little more expensive than a standard receptacle. But like Deputy Mayor Contreras said, if you have room to put a cup in there or any other trash, there will be other trash. And that's where fires start and hazards start. I think giving the exemptions to the bars was a good thing as far as to encourage our businesses as a council. But I really think enforcing a receptacle there is something that has to be done. And as a city, I would say it should be able to be a city-approved receptacle at these places, because if they don't want the exemption, well, then don't have a receptacle and you can't smoke at all. You know, you either do it our way or you don't do it at all. And I really think that in a bar situation, that's where a lot of this litter comes from. People light their cigarettes up when they're leaving Smitty's and they walk over to Vista Village Pub and they throw it right in the, right in the planters, or it's thrown in our, on our curbs. It goes in our, waterways and right into our watersheds. So I would recommend, obviously, the city paying for some, and that's number one. How do we pay for it? What's the cost? Where's the budget does this come out of? These are actually called, I think they're called ballot butt boxes, okay? So you can actually look them up, ballot voting, all right? Vote with your butts. But I'd like to know kind of the cost of it, what it is, and then how many we provide as a city, and then what the requirements are for businesses. So I think the requirement of a receptacle, fantastic idea. I also like the businesses mitigating and cleaning the cigarette litter. And the things that I saw this, like I love the, Emu and Kangaroo. I like the Who's Your Favorite Soccer Player. We have a Moonlight Theater here that's amazing too. And saying, hey, what was your favorite Moonlight play? Maybe every couple weeks, these bar owners can, say, hey, the king of the plays for the summer was Tarzan or 42nd Street, or just to make it fun and make smokers feel like they're stakeholders and they're included in the community, So I really like the idea of this. I think it encourages it. And when you walk around, Europe and even areas of New York where they have these, the cigarette butts actually go in the cigarette area. And I don't think anybody's smoking extra cigarettes to get the votes up. But if we find that being a problem, like everybody's smoking extra just so they can vote extra, we'll definitely work on that, I would assume, as a city. But I like that. The other thing that I really like is educating the community about tobacco use and proper disposal. And I think that goes along with the mayor's idea to fine people is, hey, we're going to make it easier for you to dispose of your cigarettes. We're going to require our businesses to have receptacles that are city approved. Know that if you're not using them, hey, we're going to start finding you on this day, and really have I like it. Have the news come. Hey, as of January 1st, 2024, we got these new receptacles. And if you don't put them in, it's a standard fine of $250 or something. I know that when we required decibel readers for our bar businesses, when it came to the noise ordinance that we initiated, we did have a particular decibel reader type of thing we wanted them to get. So I think the receptacle should be doable, Walter, but I will defer to your legal knowledge as we get closer to that. So anyway, thanks for bringing this forward. I think it's cool to not only keep Vista clean, but make it fun while you do it. And hopefully me and Janice Selby Jones won't have to have our capes on and loading up bags of micro trash. Those pickers really make your forearm strong though, Karina. Deputy Mayor, you're correct. So anyway, thank you so much. So hopefully you have some direction on where I'm at, and I appreciate everybody's time.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you so much, everyone, for the discussion. Councilmember Green, I'm glad you mentioned funding. So in my conversations with the community, there's definitely resources available, grants and different opportunities for us to pursue. And I would like to, lean on our professional staff to be able to pursue those opportunities, because I really think that this is an opportunity for private and public partnerships, because if we don't have the public receptacles, then it might end up on private property. And if we don't have the private receptacles, it might end up on public property. And so we're all affected by cigarette waste. And there's a lot to consider. Existing laws and ordinances related to designated areas, council priorities in terms of which locations do you think are most urgent and to use grant funding for, and to, put that money towards, how we're going to go about enforcement and how we're going to do the education. So just so that we have a really strong public record and direction for staff on this, I'd like to make a motion to direct our city staff to pursue opportunities and return back to us with recommendations for how we will designate, abate, enforce, and educate related to tobacco waste and pollution. And that will be all for me. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Contreras.
I'll second that motion. I have an additional question. Do we have a fine established for littering in the city of Vista?
I'm not sure the city of Vista, but it is, there is a state fine for littering. In the state, yeah, it's quite high, but off the top of my head, I don't know in Vista if there is.
Okay.
That would be the progressive code violation, 125, 250, 500, 1,000. So
And so that we already have code and law established in the city of Vista to enforce a litter fine?
that I would have to check. I would.
'Cause to my understanding and recollection of having this discussion in the past, we do not have perhaps an appropriate structure to enforce. So I think first and foremost, I appreciate you bringing that up. I know this is something that folks in the community, actually, the Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio, we're talking about this as well. One, to ensure that we do have a process established for finding folks that are littering is going to be paramount. And then secondly, obviously if we don't, then that would probably have to come back to council. And additionally, I would think some signage would be really important because, I don't find it acceptable to litter at all. And I don't find it acceptable that folks in my community are littering. However, I do feel like it would be inappropriate to fine people without a proper education to the public. So I want to ensure that we're taking proper steps. Maybe we don't go as fast as we can when it comes to the fines, but I think we go as fast as we can to establishing a real proper framework, which would mean establishing a fine process and educating the public. And then I think an appropriate step would be to tell people, sorry, you have a fine because, you're littering. But I would say that I want to see enforcement equally throughout the city and not hyper-focused on certain areas. I think that if we are going to focus on any areas, it should be distributed throughout the city properly so that one community doesn't feel like they're being targeted unfairly. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, we had a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And our motion here is to give direction to staff to bring options back that are drawn from this discussion. Yep. Okay. That item is approved unanimously. That'll bring us to our final oral communications opportunity. And now is the opportunity for oral communications for those that did not speak under the first oral communication item on tonight's agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak on matters not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers? Seeing none, we will go to comments from our staff. Our Deputy City Clerk, do we have any comments this evening? Oh, do we have a speaker on Zoom? And what's the name of our speaker? Suzanne Hume.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Suzanne Hume. I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. And I just would like to thank this council for all of the really important work that you do. So amazing. So many things have been brought forward that really help protect children's health, their ability to learn and grow in the future. I'm very excited to hear about the pesticide, stopping the toxic pesticides in the parks and in the right-of-ways and on public lands in Vista. I'm very excited for that to come back. We know that pesticides leave their target area over 95% of the time. With all of the rains that were just here, and we think about how flooding will become more and more common, we really need to think about stopping the use of toxic pesticides in our community. And so we really need to think about how to get this done. As you know, the city of Malibu doesn't allow toxic pesticides. In fact, even by the residents, there are alternatives that are shared and workshops and this and that because nobody wants their neighbor spraying toxic pesticides that harm their children, their pets, etc. Anyway, there's a lot we can do, and we have information on Clean Earth for Kids under Team 5 Stop Toxic Pesticides. Very important. Also, with the rains, thinking about synthetic turf. So we know that synthetic turf is known to contain toxic chemicals, lead and heavy metals, and also PFAS. PFAS, the forever chemicals that get into our water and they don't break down, right? They're forever chemicals. So who ends up paying for this? The city of Vista and the taxpayers trying to clean up PFAS, even though, like I said, it's forever chemicals. So we need to think about doing a moratorium to stop the installation of synthetic turf for all of the important reasons. And there are strategies for beautiful grass fields that don't involve toxic chemicals or, obviously no pesticides, etc. We have that example on our website. And we'd be happy to bring a professional here to meet with staff. So important. Anyway, as you may know, in the state of California, there are 3 bills right now that are coming up that would actually help pay for synthetic turf to be taken out. It is because heat illness and also, the worry about extreme heat when our kids are exposed to this hot plastic toxic synthetic turf, burns can occur.
Thank
right?
you very much. And now we'll go to our Deputy City Clerk. Any comments for the meeting this evening? Our City Clerk?
I don't think either of you have it on your list, so I just want to remind folks that the Junior Deputy Program will start August 31st, so registration is open for that. And the Leadership Academy will start on September 6th, and we have registration information on the website there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our City Attorney? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to mention that in response to Tropical Storm Hillary, the city did virtually open its Emergency Operations Center. We met virtually throughout the day this weekend. The purpose of the Emergency Operations Center is to manage the city's response and plan resources for emergency events. Thankfully, we weathered the storm nicely. We didn't have any major incidents, a few downed trees and some tree branches and one power line, but our emergency response was all in order, and so we're really happy that we weathered the storm. Also, in announcing, the Vista Firefighters Association will hold a fundraiser tomorrow night, August 23rd, from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Belching Beaver in downtown Vista, and the fundraiser will benefit the Hawaii Firefighters Local 1463. Moonlight's 42nd Street is earning rave reviews from critics and audiences. Performance continue at the Moonlight through September 2nd. The Moonlight Cultural Foundation is also bringing movies back to the Avo Playhouse this weekend, which is in downtown Vista. A full slate of sing-along movies will be shown, including High School Musical, Sing, Disney's Encanto, and Hairspray. Tickets are $10 per person per movie. Go to moonlightstage.com for more information. And finally, I'd like to recognize Chief Washington, our new fire chief, who's with us this evening. Chief Washington started last Monday. We had a very nice badge pinning ceremony, and we're looking forward to the chief's service for us in the Vista community. So welcome, Chief Washington. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Thank you. And Chief Washington, I do want to apologize. I was not able to be at your pinning ceremony, but I am very much looking forward to meeting with you later on next month. And congratulations once again. I've looked at your resume. It is impeccably impressive. So looking forward to chatting with you and all the work you're going to do here in Vista. Aside from that, just a couple of updates. One, can we get that squeaky door fixed? It'll be the first thing I'm going to ask. Vista Historical Society is going to have their annual barbecue on Saturday, September 23rd from 3 to 7 p.m. That's at 2317 Old Foothill Drive, if you can make that. Just a reminder, Vista Irrigation is also having their 100-year anniversary celebration on September 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at 1391 Engineer Street. And then I just want to congratulate Operation Hope as well. Today they opened their food pantry. Beautiful. I was there 8 months ago. It was nothing like it is today. But if you or anybody you know are suffering from food insecurity, they are a fantastic resource, not just for that, but for a lot of different things as well. So if you need to reach out to them, you can reach them at 760-536-3880. They also have a New Beginnings boutique there, which is a wonderful thing. And as always, thank you to the council for your dialogue this evening, and thank you to my wife for allowing me to be away from my family. And I hope you all enjoy a wonderful evening.
Councilmember Melendez.
Lovely, thank you. Yes, the event and ribbon cutting at Operation Hope today was awesome. I was super encouraged just walking through the space. Is such a dignified environment for people to be able to seek services, get food, get a new pair of shoes, all by donation-based support from Operation Hope and coordinated with the community. So really happy about that. It warms my heart. And I just want to say happy belated National Senior Citizens Day. Yesterday, Monday, August 21st, was National Senior Citizens Day, and I got a chance to visit our Gloria McClellan Senior Center in Vista, and we had a luau. We had a really great time. It was so awesome to celebrate elders in our community, and I got to speak with some folks one-on-one about issues that they are experiencing and things that they'd like to see the city do. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all my friends at the Senior Center. And also say thank you to everyone for your comments tonight, and thank you to our council for the great discussion. I appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Contreras.
Yes, thank you to my council for the discussions, for the public, your involvement in keeping and ensuring that the city continues to be better and better. And I do have a question. I know that at one point we provided direction for an environment commission to come back. Do we have that agendized? And if not, can we have it?
We did discuss an environmental commission, but I don't know that we got council consensus for that or a majority. If you want me to agendize it for discussion, I can absolutely do that.
I definitely want to agendize it for discussion. Thank you. I wanted to check up on that. I want to report out from North County Transit District as a representative that Executive Director Matt Tucker is leaving after 15 years of experience, and he will be greatly missed. We didn't always see eye to eye, but even when we didn't, we had good, thorough discussion. But believe it or not, we got along really well. Apparently he's an Aries, and I'm an Aries too, so we can battle it out and still be friends. We have an interim executive director, Barry Pollard, who comes to us with a lot of experience, so he will be taking over the executive director position as we continue the search for a new executive director. And then lastly, I wanted to ask, so we had a member of the public bring, in our first oral communications, bring this forward. I haven't heard of this before. Is this a eviction?
I haven't seen it yet, but we can take a look at it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Based on the comments from the person that spoke, it is an eviction. That's my understanding.
Okay. Do we have a way to track evictions? Is that something that we can?
Not something that we currently do, but we can absolutely evaluate the potential to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this would be part of the strategic plan to address homelessness. Certainly monitoring evictions. This is the first time I hear of it, and it obviously, it's just devastating for folks to go through this. It's heartbreaking to listen, and at minimum, we need to know the state of evictions in our city.
So if I can clarify, it's going to be hard to track evictions because there are private actions by landlords against tenants. I mean, it is public record in the courthouse, but on the public record, I don't know if they're showing us an address, but I will endeavor to take a look and see what we can get from the public records. But
Yeah, it would be interesting for us to, and I think necessary for us to figure out some kind of way to track evictions. I know nationally there's a crisis happening right now with evictions. I don't know what that looks like here locally, but it is very concerning. So that's all my comments, and I look forward to our next council meeting. Thanks.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I want to start my comments tonight by recognizing David Roth, a deputy sheriff with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Dave Roth is a graduate of Rancho Buena Vista High School and a long-term Vista man, and he also was recognized after our council meeting last meeting for 20 years of service to the city of Vista as a deputy sheriff. So Dave Roth, thank you so much for your service, sir. Greatly appreciated. And I know criminals around town tremble at the sound of your name, my man. So thank you so much for that. Also in my notes here, I just want to give a shout out to Miss Patsy Chow. She loves attention, so she's really excited about this. You very rarely see Patsy Chow out of her office. She runs the planning and engineer department right now, which they are shorthanded. You can barely see Patsy Chow behind her desk because she has so many files in front of her. So Patsy Chow, thank you for your tireless work for the city. If you drive by after 8:30 at night, you will see Patsy Chow's light on and her mom calling her to tell her to come home because it's almost 9 o'clock. So Patsy Chow, thank you so much. Seeing you in this room made me want to thank you for your hard work. And last but not least, we do have a new fire chief, Mr. Gerald Washington. Welcome to our city here. We greatly appreciate you. And I am excited to let you know this is one of our shorter Tuesday night meetings, and I hope that you will be able to enjoy some of Vista's finest tacos on Tuesday, and thank us for getting you out of here in time to get some of those tacos, my man. So welcome to Vista. Thank you so much for showing up, and I look forward to everything you're going to do for the city of Vista. That's all I got. Thanks for showing up, Vista. Keep showing up, keep making noise, keep being heard, and we'll keep doing our job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. And of course, I want to join all my colleagues in welcoming Chief Gerard Washington. We're happy to have you. We won't make you stand up again tonight, but we are glad to have you with us very much. We were all very pleased to participate in the opening of Operation Hope's new food pantry with a lot of community partners, a great place to distribute food to the community that's in need. The pantry is open to all who may need it, and Operation Hope welcomes donations of non-perishable food items, clothing, kids, toys for the pantry. To donate, call Operation Hope at 760-295-6562. And finally, we encourage our residents to be the eyes and ears of our city by downloading and using Vista's mobile app, Access Vista. Residents can report infrastructure issues, graffiti, traffic signal issues, and many more. The Access Vista app can be downloaded from your preferred app store. Visit cityofvista.com/access for more information, or dial the cellular telephone number of your district council person or the mayor. We are all happy to address these things, and the city manager loves it when we call for these items. And we are indeed very happy to address them. And we seriously appreciate input. I get probably just about every day. Today, it was reported to me that the garbage dumpster behind Miko Sushi needs attention. I got a lot of pictures. Good. We're going to address that tomorrow, and we're working on all kinds of things one at a time. We got a lot going on. Staff's doing a great job. We appreciate each and every one of you very much, especially for sitting through our long meetings, although tonight was a short one. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.